your choices are starting your speech to the side of the table. For those of you who are using a workspace, you can move behind the table for your demonstration. You can reverse it for the conclusion. If you're doing a speech that does not require a work surface, you can use the podium, move beside the podium to demonstrate whatever activity it is, and then you can go back to the podium afterwards. Okay? Now, if you feel like when you get up here that your feet aren't going to cooperate, you can do your whole speech behind the table. Introduction, body, and conclusion. Okay? Your setup time and your cleanup time is not included in your time limit. I will start the timer when you start talking about your speech. So if you were planning on that being a part of your time limit, you're going to need to go back and rethink it. So, you get up here, lay all your stuff out, and then I'll start the timer when you start talking. Okay? How many of you have ever had a really difficult decision to make? One that you fretted over, one that you worried about, and at some point in time you threw up your hands and said, "Oh, please, somebody make up my mind for me." We've all been there. So I'm going to help you with that today. I'm going to show you how to make as well as use a decision maker. Now, I imagine you probably learned how to do these when you were in 3rd or 4th grade. I know I used to take them up from 3rd graders when I taught in elementary school. It's based on the ancient art of origami. So this is a really old toy, so to speak. But in order to get started, there's a few things that you're going to need. You're going to need paper. It can be typing paper or notebook paper, whichever you have available to you. You are going to need a square sheet of paper. You notice this is a rectangle. So we'll have to trim this here in just a moment. An assortment of pens, pencils, and markers. Scissors are optional. You can, if you've got them available. If not, there's a way of folding and tearing in order to compensate. But first you have to have a square sheet of paper. And the best way to do that is to take one of your top corners, fold it at a right angle. Now, you can trim it with scissors to save time. But if you're in a position where you don't have scissors, you can fold it along this edge back and forth a couple of times, and then it will tear easily. To save time, though, I'm just going to quickly trim the excess. And now we have a square. We also have a center line, which makes it really easy for the folding process. We're going to take each of the 4 corners into the center, and we're going to make a square that is approximately half the original size. Very simple, very easy. We're going to repeat this process, but we're going to put the 4 flaps down on the table. Take it to our center line, find the center line. I can feel it here. I'm going to crease it. And we now have a square that's about 1/4 the original size. We're almost through with the folding process. All we have to do is to fold it in half, crease it, unfold it, give it a 1/4 turn, and fold it again. Just like that. We're through with the folding process. All we have to do now is actually label it. And this is where your markers come into play. Now, depending on the age of the children you're doing this with, or the adults, you may or may not choose to use Sharpies, you might use crayons. But you will write a color on the outside of each of the square flaps. And I'll stop here just to save time, but you'll need a different color. You'll need 4 different colors. Now, on the inside, you can use a pen or a Sharpie. I'll use a Sharpie so you can see this from a distance. And you want to randomly number on each of the small right triangles 1 through 8. So I'm going to randomly number. Now, underneath each number, you're going to write a stock answer to a question. Of course, my mother's number 1 answer was always no. Okay? So you have to come up with 8 different answers. Of course, you'd have yes, and one of my favorites, maybe. Okay, and I'll do one more just to save time. Okay, so that's how you label the decision maker. But in order to use this, I have to have a decision to make. And I have a really tough one coming up, and that is, will everybody make an A on their first speech? So I pull out my handy dandy decision maker, and in order to use it, I need to take my thumb and forefinger, slide it under the outside flaps, thumb and forefinger on the other side, just like that, okay? So, we have to first have a decision, will everybody make an A on their first speech? We have to choose a color. There's no fretting or worrying about choosing a color. I'm gonna choose blue, that's one of my favorites. So I'm gonna open and close it to correspond with the letters in blue. I always spell the word so I know that I got the right number of letters. B-L-U-E. Then I have to pick a number. How can you fret about choosing a number? I think I'm gonna choose 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I need to choose one final number. I think I'll choose number 3. And all I have to do is find my answer, and that is, will everyone make an A on their first speech? Let's see. It says, oh, only during a blue moon. So, I have my answer. No fretting, no worrying. And this was so simple to do. All I had to have was a few main items, paper, markers, things that you probably have in your backpack or desk at home. And the folding process is simply folding a square twice. Very simple, very easy. And as I told you, even 3rd graders can do it. So today I've shown you not only how to make, but also how to use a decision maker. And the next time you have a really difficult decision to make, like whom to marry, what do you want to be when you grow up, or where do you want to go for lunch, you can pull out a piece of paper and make that difficult decision go away. Now, was that a difficult demonstration?